What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats, the news you need to know about if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, if you're watching it live, you're watching the replay, make sure you fire them off in the comments below. I always like to start these things out and just kind of ask where you're watching from. So if you're watching from St. Augustine, I'd love to be able to see it. If you're watching from New York, let me know. I'd really like to know what you think or where you're at and why you're watching. If you're looking to maybe move out of St. Augustine, or maybe you're looking to move into St. Augustine or invest, love to be able to know where you're coming from and what you are watching. So let's hop into the market stats. We'll go over, take a look at the Northeastern Florida Association of Realtor market stats as we do every single week. So let me share my screen real quick. All right, and we'll hop over here. Okay, so we got 7,255 listings on the market, which is up a good clip. If you've been watching, over the past couple months, as we head into the fall and winter months, we tend to see inventory rise slightly, and especially with the 8% real interest rates, we've seen interest rates go up, and we've also seen inventory go up as well. So we're at 7,255 homes, but we're still not exactly in a buyer's market with that much inventory. Just to give you an idea, in 2019, we had about 8,500 homes on the market. So we're getting closer to that level where we are going to be in a buyer's market. But you also need to factor in seasonality here, because the end of the year typically is slower anyway. And then also you need to factor in interest rates. So let's take a look at the past week on the hot sheet here. All right, new listings. We got 1,035 new listings to close 745 closed. So that's actually probably the lowest ratio we've seen in a while. I mean, a lot of the time this year was pretty much 1-to-1 for new listings coming on, new listings going off of the market. Now we're seeing, a 7.5 to 10.5, or let's just say 7 to 10. All right, so new listings, and then under contract, we have 705 pending. We have 273 contingent taking backup. We're grouping those together to call that under contract. Roughly about the same, right? But then we also have back on market. So pretty much the exact amount that went contingent taking backup also came back on the market for whatever reason. One of those contingencies fell through, whether the buyer couldn't get a mortgage, the house didn't appraise, or maybe there was something on the inspection report that caused them to exit the contract, or they just decided to forfeit their binder and just left it on the table. That's also very possible. So as we go into the winter months, we know that this is actually in terms of seasonality, we should see lower prices during this time of year, and we should see inventory tick up a lot more than it is. But because of interest rates being at such a high position, we haven't seen that really correlate with more listings, because people are locked in to that 3, 4, 5% interest rate. And it's very interesting, because interest rates used to be a death sentence for the market, right? When we were talking about 6% interest rates, a year and a half ago, I was like, I couldn't see it. I was like, no, that won't happen. Too fast. To be able to happen within a year, go from 3.5% interest rate all the way up to 7 and then 8. But it happened, right? So I can't tell the future, but we have seen some changes in the interest rate market, which I'll cover here with the important news. So I'll share my screen. If you guys have any questions about what I'm covering here, go ahead and fire them off in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them as soon as I can get to them. All right, so if you haven't heard, interest rates have been going down pretty significantly. So they really peaked and pretty much we're sitting around 7.75. They hit 8% at one point, but for the past 6 weeks, we've seen interest rates continue to go down, and they're at a quick pace actually. So they're just going down as fast as they were going up for the most part, which is pretty interesting. So mortgage rates are nearing 7% again. I think I've even seen FHA being quoted at like 6.8, 6.9 for a lot of people. So that is overall good news if you're a buyer in the market, right? To get some that affordability. That's we've seen this, and that's the crazy thing that I like to bring up is like, hey, we've had high interest rates, right? High 7% actually is a great interest rate, but high interest rates now for over a year. They peaked, I think, in 2023 at 7.3% in October. Now we're sitting around 7% here in they peaked at 7.3% in 2022. Now we're here at 2023 at 7%. So we are slightly lower than we were a year ago, but we've had interest rates at 7% or above that for more than a year now, and prices really haven't anywhere. Historic crash, and it hasn't seemed to happen. And of course, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So I'm not saying that a crash isn't possible. Anything is possible, right? But I'm just using the data that we have here. It's been a year of high prices and high interest rates, and the prices have stayed pretty much flat. So nothing's really changed on that end. So now interest rates are going to start, hopefully, going back down. And that's really the market. What's going on here is like, all right, well, hey, that changes the affordability altogether, because the affordability, was fine. No one batted an eye buying a $500,000 house at a 4% interest rate, right? But when that interest rate went up to 7.5%, 8%, then that payment went out of control, right? So people were like, this is too much, and that's why we saw a lot of buyers just say, hey, I'm gonna wait, right? So it could be an early Christmas. Who knows? Maybe that's what's going to happen. Interest rates are going to keep going down, or maybe they go back up. Right? There's no crystal ball. The reason they did go down, right, is because Jerome Powell signaled that he's not going to raise the federal funds rate, which affected the bond market positively. Which then, the 10-year Treasury bonds and mortgage interest rates typically trade. They kind of dance together as they move along, and they typically are about 1.7% points. The spread between each of them, right? And I think at this point we're at like 2.5, so we have almost a whole percentage point still, that if it follows the historical trend of how it's been going for years and years and years of 1.7%, that's why people are so confident that interest rates are going to go down. Either way, I'm going to put out a video about that, because I know it's really getting in the weeds and the nitty gritty of stuff, and I know that's really tough for people sometimes. And I don't want to bore anyone here. Let's head on to the next news story, guys. And this kind of goes along with what I was talking about, but this is Toll Brothers, right? They've seen their stock rise 2.5% because they reported that they haven't had the year that they thought they were going to have, right? And that's because of interest rates, right? But they said that October brought really strong demand for them, and that brought them up around 2.5%. And that's because they really weren't affected by mortgage rates. They didn't really have to mess with pricing too much, because they were able to discount the mortgage rate by buying that interest rate down. So they really didn't see any change. So it says, forget about rising mortgage rates. Toll Brothers said in their fourth quarter earnings that demand was strong in October. And that's when interest rates were around 8%. Like we said on my other live streams and my other videos, that's really where new construction builders, their business has been doing well. Right. We also saw Warren Buffett invested, I think, in D.R. Horton and Lennar, but a significant chunk of money into both of those companies. Essentially what they're saying is that overall, their next year guidance is that they plan to close to a midpoint of 1,800 to 10,000 units next year. That's a huge spread. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense. Which is ahead of some of the analysts on Wall Street. Their expectations are 1,800 to 9,000. So far, they have over 2,000 net contracts with a price tag of less than $1 million. So here in St. Johns County, if you are interested in Toll Brothers, they're under $1 million for the most part. Now, of course, if you're doing all the upgrades and everything like that, you can make it over $1 million. But their average sales price across the country is much higher than what it is here. So maybe that's a good sign if you're interested in Toll. If you have any questions about what I just covered, go ahead and fire them off in the comments below. Looks like we got a comment here. CB fell asleep last week, missed the show. Notice a few restaurants have closed, both local and national change. Is it because of higher rents or lack of labor due to high housing prices? So I think you're talking or probably referring to Red Lobster, right? St. Augustine, I think locals really aren't about the chains, right? Even though when that opened, when I was a kid, Red Lobster, Longhorn, they all opened on 312, and or at least I became aware of it or whatever. And we loved going there. Chili's, all that kind of stuff. Still like going to Chili's. Nothing wrong with Chili's. But like if I'm going to choose to spend money, I rather like spend money at a local person's restaurant or shop or whatever that is. Just because. Now, of course, is there a chain that I go to? Yes. I'm not saying that, but not exactly sure what happened over there. I think the bank also bought that building, the bank right next door to it. So it's funny. Someone commented on the Facebook page and they were like, You know what they should do? And like you're thinking that they're gonna put like someone should put their own private Italian restaurant. They're like, "Well, they need an Olive Garden in St. Augustine." And you know what? I agree. I love Olive Garden. Their breadsticks and salads, great. It's not real Italian food, right? It's real Italian American food. That's what it is. It's not actually real Italian food, but it's great. Okay, yeah, CB. Yes, it'll be a Chase Bank. Also, last week I didn't do a live stream, so you didn't miss anything, CB. I worked all day and I had to do more work, and I was like, all right, well, this is life now. So I had to skip it for my sanity, but we're back this week, and we're coming at you with another news story here. So this is something that we've been covering here, guys. Right, the insurance issues here in Florida. Senate committee investigating Florida state-backed home insurance company as private insurers flee. Right, so we've been talking about the problems with insurance here, and the one light at the end of the tunnel is that we have citizens backed by the state. So at the worst part of it, you're gonna pay for, if you need to get insurance, you're gonna get it through Citizens. Maybe it's not the coverage you want, maybe it's not the payment that you want, but you can at least get it. Now it seems that the Senate committee is investigating Florida state-backed home insurance company Citizens. They've also grown their policy over $1.3 million, so it's probably warranted. This is a picture of some of the disaster that happened aftermath in Fort Myers. Totally destroyed this area. And it's, of course, it's saying that, like, hey, we live in Florida, we're covered in water on three sides, climate change is happening. So this is just going to cost more and more money to these insurance companies. So they want to make sure that if anything were to happen, what does 1.3 million policyholders do? And that is a very good question, because is the citizens solvent enough to be able to cover all of the potential insurance claims that they would have? And I think the answer is, and we all know it, right, is no, right? This is how insurance companies work. They really don't just have like a pile of cash sitting around. Not to my knowledge, at least. And that's why a lot of insurance have left the state of Florida, because it's been costing them too much money. Probably having to take losses. I think the insurance game is going to have to change here, northeastern Florida. Maybe we'll go to like a self-insurer thing where it's like, hey, you know what, you just got to figure it out on your own, or maybe we'll go to a federal thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but obviously it's a big problem here in the area. If you have any questions about the insurance, I do have a great video with Justin Thompson with Brightway Insurance. He's really, really intelligent. He's a great insurance agent, and you can learn a lot from that video. It's in my interview playlist if you want to check that out. But let's go on to the next news story here, guys. We're going to cover what's going on here in St. Johns County, kind of what's going on locally, this is actually pretty cool. So this actually wasn't the news story I was talking about, but I forgot to mention this. HGTV is building their dream home in 2024. You can go and try to win it. It's valued at $2.2 million. I mean, looking at it, I would say it's at least $2.2 million. It looks like a beautiful home. I believe this is off of Summer Haven in one of those neighborhoods back there. I believe. I could be wrong on that, but they haven't released the address. But it has views of the Matanzas River and the historic St. Augustine Lighthouse. Okay, so I'm wrong. That's probably got to be in. It looks so far. I doubt they have views of the lighthouse. I don't know. So here's downtown St. Augustine over here. The lighthouse, if I'm thinking correctly, would be over here, because I'm seeing the Bridge of Lions right there. Either way, it's on Anastasia Island. Beautiful home. You can register when to buy it. They have videos of it online. It's pretty cool. HGTV really seems to love St. Augustine. They like talking about it, and seems to be brought up. I think they also just mentioned that St. Augustine has the best lights in the entire state of Florida when it comes to Christmas lights. So another thing, I'm going to enter to win the house because it's obviously cool. So I'm going to try it. So go ahead. I'll put the link in the comments once I'm all done here and the details and everything. But we'll get that. If you need it, you can also just Google it. You can find it too. Probably a little easier. All right, let's go on to the next news story here, guys. Now, this is something I've been saying for a good bit. So if you've been following the channel, you know I've been preaching this. Realtors are seeing people move out of St. Johns County and into Putnam County. A real estate expert, First Coast News, spoke with cites less expensive home prices, less traffic, and less new neighborhood construction as reasons for people moving. So that's the biggest thing that people complain about. If you go, you can just join one of the Facebook groups for St. Augustine. all the locals are like, please, like, stop coming because we can't afford to live here, and there's traffic and this and that. Now, if you're asking me, the traffic is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't have a problem with it. I live right outside of downtown St. Augustine, so I'm dealing with that traffic. Oh, they interviewed Chris Fields. He's an awesome. I didn't see the video, but Chris Fields is an awesome agent out in Putnam County. He's the listing agent of the house my sister bought. So yeah, he's a great agent. But yeah, so people that are locals here, St. Johns County, are kind of getting misplaced, because of what's happening here. The cost of living has risen so dramatically in the past couple of years. A lot of that has to do with the cost of housing. Wages hasn't really followed that. I imagine, because the biggest employer here is the government. So public schools are the biggest employer. And then also in general, the hospitality industry. Now, I imagine with the hospitality industry, tips have gone up just because the prices of everything have gone up. But it's probably not exactly in line. Tips are probably here, prices are like here. So Putnam County offers affordability. I was just looking today. Matter of fact, let me share my screen. This is a really, really cool house for what you can get in Putnam County. Let me see. Yep, let me make sure I can find it first. And I was going to go view it today, but it's not built yet, so that prevented me from doing that. But this is just such a cool little spot. They're building new construction in Palatka, which is the little city on the St. Johns River. $235,000, guys, for new construction. It's 1,024 square feet. It's not humongous, but like, this is a cool little house, right? This is, when you think of Palatka, you don't think of a house like this. So great little front porch, kitchen. It's like you got some granite countertops there, maybe for Mike, I don't know. Vaulted ceilings though, modern look, super clean, master bathroom. I mean, it's just a great little house and a great little starter house, right? So all the people that work in St. Augustine that need a place that can afford, they can afford this, right? They can't afford a $550,000 house. So yeah, I just think it's a super cool build. Actually, Chris Fields is listing this as well. So he's like I said, great agent over there. But I do also have a video of Palatka, and it is pretty good. One of my best videos. So if you are interested in Palatka, I do have that video as well. But I think those are cool little houses. So on to the next thing. People are moving out of St. Johns County because of the affordability. They're moving to Putnam County. They're moving to Jacksonville. They're moving to Flagler County. And a lot of people are moving out of state too, moving to South Carolina, moving to North Carolina, Tennessee, cheaper areas than here. So it's just what's happening. It's a mass migration of people that lived here to people that didn't live here, moved in, brought a lot of money in. People that have lived here historically, they're getting tired of it. They don't like it anymore. And like the crazy thing is like if you drive around St. Augustine, it's really like the traffic's not bad at all. Like I lived here as a kid. I understand what everyone would say. Every local is going to jump down my throat for this. Like I lived here as a kid. Traffic is definitely not what it was, 20 years ago, but you shouldn't expect it to be. But at the same time, if you've lived in any city, the traffic here it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I routinely drive around with my wife. I'm like, can you believe people complain about this? And she just giggles because it is what it is. CB. Will national builders start looking at Putnam County? That is a fantastic question. Me and my buddy were just talking about that literally today because we're going to go film this property. But I think they will because Putnam County, you've got Bass Pro Shops. They're looking to build their resort in Putnam County in Weelaka. Weelaka is a town of 700 people. They got one stoplight. They got 2 sheriffs. That's it. So they're looking to build like a 4,500 acre resort. They have one similar to in the Ozarks out in that section of St. Johns River. So that'll be about an hour away from Palatka, maybe 45 minutes. But Palatka itself is growing. And I really don't see, you see builders in Green Cove Springs, you see builders in Middleburg. So I imagine we will soon see builders in Putnam County with super affordable prices like that. I mean, I'd imagine they'd be even cheaper than that because they're going to build, they're going to buy a big mass of land and then subdivide it like crazy. But yeah, I definitely do. It's just a matter of time. When that happens, I don't know. Maybe I can find a lot and if you're selling any type of acreage out in Putnam County, let me know, and we can get you hooked up with a builder and hopefully get you some good money for your land, get it subdivided, and build some affordable homes for people. I'm totally down for that. All right, I'm gonna share my next screen. Let's see here. Bop, bop, bop. All right, guys, and this is going to be the tail end of it here. So if you have any questions about what's going on in the market, what's going on in St. Augustine, I cover this stuff every week. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. I don't know. So now this is something that I just wanted to pull up here. God dang, man, all these things. Sorry. Just stay signed in. All right, so Llama. Llama is a fantastic restaurant. It's a Peruvian restaurant. It's on A1A. If you know where Osteen's is, like a historic restaurant here in St. Augustine, Llama is like right next to that. And it's a Peruvian spot. Very, very good. You can only get reservations on Open Table. There's not like walk-in seating, almost never, unless you're lucky. But fantastic restaurant. They just won top 100 restaurants in the United States by Open Table. So that I think this is like the second or third time they've won. It's a fantastic culinary experience. It's a little bit more expensive, of course, but the guy, his name, I think it's Marcel. Marcel is fantastic. He also just opened oh my gosh, what the heck? I have a subscription. What are you talking about? Okay, all right. So either way, I'll show you. He just opened this place over here, which is Maracuya, which means passion fruit. And it's a little coffee shop right on West King Street. So now he's running Llama. He's also running this spot over here. Fantastic little space. That's like a 10-minute walk from my house. So I'm super stoked on it. They have a dulce de leche latte, which is fantastic. They also have like beef and egg empanadas. They have a cheesecake thing in there. I think they sell wine as well. I don't really drink like that, but fantastic spot. Oh, here we go. Pull it up on Instagram. It's probably going to be like the go-to news source in the future. But I think this is the Dolce de Leche here. This is Marcel here. So if you see him around in town, he's crushing it. All this stuff is good. So definitely check it out if you're in town. But let me see. I saw I had a couple questions pop up here. If you do have any questions, fire them off below. CB and JJ Patterson are running the chat. How's your business going? Are buyers mostly looking at new construction? Notice any change in out-of-state volume? Yeah, so good thing for me to say is that this month is going to be my best month, which is pretty amazing. I'm pretty grateful for that as well, considering that transactions amongst all the entire nation are down. 2021, 6.5 million real estate transactions. 2023, 3.8 million real estate transactions, and there's a lot more realtors, right? I think I can attribute a lot of my success to doing these kind of things. Most realtors don't have this access where I can talk to JJ over here. JJ, we haven't met in person. We haven't talked on the phone. I think we've had some comments through here, but I'm allowed to be transparent with people through this platform. And I think that, I have people just reach out like, hey, you seem like you know what you're talking about, which is good. And you seem like you're not going to bullshit us. You're going to give it to us straight. And that's one thing that I really try to do. And at my detriment, matter of fact. So just yesterday, JJ, I'm going to brag myself a little bit. Just yesterday, they had the Jack's Real Producers event, and it's for the top 500 real estate agents within Northeastern Florida. And I qualified for that. Pretty stoked on that. Never did that before. So I qualified for that. I went to it, and it was a fantastic event. It was at the Jags Stadium, so I do have some video on my phone. But it was all cleared out and everything, obviously. But it was really cool. I was talking to another real estate agent there who is a young guy getting after it. His name is Billy Dazius, who is at Keller Williams. He's like 25, and he's just a good person, and he does the work, right? And it's just cool because he's doing stuff that we all wish we were doing at 25. I was talking to him, and one of the things that they're teaching people is like, hey, if you're talking to a seller about listing their house, just go ahead and list it at whatever price they want to list it at, right? And like, to me, that doesn't make sense, right? Like, so there, you're setting yourself up at that point. If you want to list your house at 500 and I think your house should sell for 450, I'm okay with doing that as long as we have a plan to reduce the price, right? Like, so hey, we've tried your way, let's try it my way, right? If we, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we don't see any activity on your house, well, okay, well, hey, we know houses sell because of price and condition. You have a nice house, well, it's probably the price then. If it's not the price, then it's probably the condition. So one or two of those. But essentially saying like, hey, you should just take the listing, and then how you lock people in is you put it in your contract that the listing that you should have $1,000 cancellation fee. So then people end up wasting their time and their money, right? So anytime you see a home that's been on the market for over like 60 days, you're like, what the hell's wrong with this thing, right? That's the first thing that comes up into every buyer's mind. Like, why has it been on the market so long? And most of the time that comes down to price and condition. So by letting like a seller decide the price and not like telling them transparently, like, hey, no, this is where the price needs to be. What the game plan is like, hey, take the listing, put a $1,000 break on the contract. So like they have to, if they want to break the contract with you, then it's at least going to cost them $1,000. And then just take the listing and hold on to it. And if you get a couple buyers from it, then fantastic. And I was just like, man, that's why realtors get sued, right? That's why, like, that's, to me, I can't do that. I just, here for two reasons. One, I'm transparent. I don't want that, right? I don't want to have awkward conversations with people where I feel like I'm like trying to destroy, like break down your price. I'm just giving you my honest feedback here, you know? So it really frustrates me too. It's also like, I don't want to lock anyone into anything. I don't want to have that conversation a month in, say, hey, I've been doing everything I can. Your house isn't selling. We need to lower the price. And in that conversation, like, you're setting yourself up to have that conversation. If you don't, well, then you're locked into a contract where you're going to be stuck talking to this person every single week and just giving them negative news, right? And obviously that's part of the job at some points, but you're setting yourself up for it. Aside from that, you're also wasting the seller's time, right? So if you're just going to take a listing just to get the listing and potentially get buyers, well, then let's say it takes 3 months, and 3 months go by and nothing's happened. Most contracts that we write are for 6 months. Where our intention is to sell them faster than that, right? But it just makes sense in terms of marketing. So think about that. 3 months of delays of what you want to do, or 6 months. That's crazy. So either way, I think it's shady. My business is doing well. Buyers looking. Sorry, I went on a tangent there because that really like fired me up. I'm like, really? Like that's the standard? Like, to me, can't do it. I'm not built like that. So either way, I went off. My bad. Our buyers looking mostly. I like lost people in the live. They're like, this guy's going nuts. Our buyers looking at new construction. Yeah, for the most part. There are some buyers that are not looking for that cookie cutter, right? And if you're looking for no cookie cutter, then you're not going to new construction for the most part, because that's all they are. They're building spec homes. They're building very similar homes, within the community, and they're all built by the same builder. Like, Silverleaf does a good job because they have like 7 different builders in Silverleaf. But if you're going to look at a $500,000 resale over here that maybe is in an older HOA, like if you're in an older HOA and you have a dated house and you're 500,000, and then you have a $500,000 house here that's maybe a little bit comparable, maybe in size it's a little bit smaller, your lot size is a little bit smaller, but you're getting everything brand new. They're going to pay your closing costs and they're going to buy down your interest rate for 30 years. It's a smart financial decision. That's where the deals are in today's market. It's all in new construction. Now, that being said, you can get a good deal on a resale because those people, these sellers, the resale sellers, have to compete with the new construction incentives. So if they're realistic about selling, then the agent hopefully is having that conversation with them, right? And saying like, hey, if you want to sell this house, your competition is this guy over here who is paying 3% towards closing costs, right? So on a $500,000 house, that's $15,000. And he's also buying down the interest rate to 5.5%, 6.5%. And that is typically, for every basis point, is 1%. So we're talking that could be, $25,000, $30,000 in buying down the interest rate. But they have the profit margin to be able to do that, where most sellers, maybe they do have the profit margin, they're just not as, like, yeah, here, take it. They're just not like that, so because it's their personal money versus a company. So Notice any changes in out-of-state volume? For me, this time of year is actually busier. I think it's also because what happens is whenever the cold starts to really kick in, people are like, I gotta get out of here. So that's why I think it really hasn't affected me. But the out-of-state volume in general, I would say, has slowed down, and that's just because most people, it was a no-brainer to make a move when interest rates were 4 and 5%. It was right, but now, especially if the major people moving into our state were baby boomers, buying houses cash, moving cash from one house up north, maybe down here, whatever that was, or maybe they just put 20% down, and hey, I got 5%, I got a 4% interest rate, I'm fine either way. Well, that 8% interest rate, that 7% interest rate got people like, you know what, maybe it's not a good time, maybe I'll wait, see what happens, and that's kind of the thing. And one of the weird things we've been talking about is the psychology of a deal, right? So yeah, you got a 4% interest rate back in 2021, but you more than likely came out of pocket cash for the difference in purchase price and the difference of the appraisal amount, because our homes were appreciating that fast that was happening in a lot of deals, right? So you're coming out, let's say you came out an extra $20,000. You're also competing with multiple offers. So like people were bidding up way, way, way over what it should have been because of the interest rate being so low. On top of that, the seller wasn't doing anything for you. If there's anything wrong with the house, they're just like, okay, well, we have 5 other buyers that want to buy it right now. So it's up to you. You want to take it as it is, or we'll just give it to this guy. So they had a lot of leverage. And then they weren't paying like what we're talking about before, the incentives there, that closing costs. Like sellers weren't even talking about it. It's like, hey, you're going to pay my closing costs. Like that's how it worked. And that we had to write some deals where it's like, hey, buyer to contribute $5,000 towards seller's closing costs. So it helps the seller net more money versus purchase price. So it's so now in today's world, the seller's willing to give you incentives. They're willing to buy down your interest rate, give you a little bit of a concession. The only difference is that your payment is going to be higher because of the 7% interest rate. So the thinking, right? And I bought a house this year. My thinking and the confidence that I have is that interest rates are going to go down to probably 6%. And then at that point I'll refinance, right? And then my payment will get a little bit better. But at the same time, if they keep going down past 6.5%, down to 5.5%, that I think that opens the floodgates again in our area, especially where you're going to be competing against multiple offers. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's pain now or pain later, really. But JJ, hope that answers your question. Got some fire congratulatory emojis here. Yeah, hey, we're stoked on it. Definitely stoked. So it's all good stuff. All good stuff, guys. Well, I think that was my last. I showed you that. Okay, yep. That was my last news story for the day. If you guys do want to be on the weekly newsletter, make sure you reach out to me. You can comment your email if you want. Put you on the weekly newsletter. I'm not going to spam you with anything else. I'm about as transparent and honest as I can be. I know a lot of people, you sign up for their emails and they send you an email every freaking day. I hate those people. So if you want, I can send you an email, keep you updated on what's going on here. All the news stories will be in there, and have a whole bunch of other things. So until next week, guys, we're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. going over the market stats, the news you need to know about if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're doing a Q&A. CB and JJ Patterson, shout out to you guys again. You guys are firing up the chat always. I appreciate you guys for being here. Everyone else watching out there, if you have any questions, fire them off in the comments below. I'll get back to it as soon as I can. If you are looking to buy or sell or invest and you just need to have a conversation, you can also schedule with the Calendly link below. So until next Wednesday, 8 p.m., guys, hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you.